I can tell you, His Holiness is a very special individual. So today, it is my special pleasure to humbly present him with the University of Utah Presidential Medal. This is the highest honor that I can bestow as president, and is completely appropriate to recognize his extraordinary efforts to engage society in important conversations that lead to greater understanding and enlightenment, tolerance, and positive transformation. So, Your Holiness, it's my honor to give you this, but we're not going to ask him to put it around his neck because it's heavy.
Don't put it on. It is
No. Not heavy. No problem. Oh, give me that hat.
Yes, oh yes, visor.
It is strong light. This is very, very practical.
So it is now my honor and pleasure to introduce His Holiness, the 14th Dalai Lama, who will speak today on compassion and universal responsibility. Sir.
No.
Thank you. Organizer, she told us there's still people
Waiting in
entering.
line, coming in.
So then we thought at the beginning, let us start some question answer till you see people entering, coming. So main sort of question answer is after my talk. But at the beginning, while we are waiting people, so some questions.
We have received a series of questions from via the internet, and so I will start with that while the rest of the people outside come in, and then His Holiness will address the audience. This question comes from a grieving individual, and he wrote, "I recently lost my father to suicide. Can you give me some enlightenment on the eternal soul's journey after one takes their own life?"
Sad. Now it is really sufficient reason feel sad. But then think, sadness, see, will not bring your father again.
Back.
So for example, my own tutor, senior tutor, I received a lot of teaching and also received the highest monk ordination. So while he alive, I feel some kind of solid rock which I can lean. When he passed away, I really felt, no longer I can so lean.
Lean on.
Then I thought, now that's instead of sadness, that sort of occasion must use for strengthening my will, my determination to fulfill my late tutor's wish. So similarly, now here You see, your case also. Of course, indeed, very, very sad. But now you should work hard and make effort, you see, to fulfill your late father's sort of wish. And then some way, your late father knows about your sort of condition. If you remain very sad, then father also feels sad. So if you, in spite of that tragedy, you carry your life in a meaningful way, full of sort of enthusiasm, then father feels very happy. So think this line. Then what happened after death? That's a more complicated now question. According to theistic religion, this life, this very life created by God. Then after death, you see, I think a certain period, we remain in coffin. So if someone go to hell, then I think while remain in coffin, that's for a short period, that's a good
Rest.
period, rest. So in any way, so either go to heaven or go to hell. So those people who lead meaningful life, meaningful means if possible, whenever possibility there are, serving other, helping other. If not, at least restrain harming other. That's the meaningful life. So, like your late father, I'm sure, you see, lead, I think, a meaningful life. In that case, now he will eventually reach heaven, like that. So, then those, I'll say, tradition, such as many Indian traditions, such as Jain tradition, Sankhya philosophy, and many other sort of Hindu tradition. You see, we have, and also the Buddhism, you see, life after life. And also, before this life, there were many lives. So, there are sort of differences. So these, and particularly those traditions which have no concept of creator, but rather self-creation. So then, including Buddhism, Jainism, that kind of sort of the philosophical view. So therefore, usually we call law of causality. No central authority as a creator, but one's own action, you see, as a causes, and then action bring positive or negative result. That's
Karma.
that we call karma, or like law of causality, cause, fruit, like that. So, and then basically, the life go continuously. And I think a major Indian tradition, 양법 가서 가서 장집을 왔다 그랬다.
장멤버. 자로.
나는 되게 추스. 야, 그냥 지금 장수 장집을.
삼켜.
상자 philosophy. And as well as Jainism and Buddhism, the self, no beginning, no end. When people reach nirvana, moksha, still being there. So different sort of different answer according to different philosophical views.
Well, thank you very much. Let's do one more, and then I think we'll have about everybody in. One of our doctoral students, Rinchan Poonsuk, would like to know, you have been a consistent supporter of the inclusion of science in modern education. What role do you think scientific education plays in universal responsibility?
Yes, I think it depends what kind of science, one particular sort of field, then not much connection.
Connection.
But another way, like scientists who involve research about brain and about human health, then you see, they showing genuine interest is how to keep peaceful mind. And then there, you see, they, through the experiment, constant anger, constant sort of fear, destroy peace of mind, and through that way, destroy our physical health. So then, such sort of researcher now showing interest about compassion, love. So, love, compassion is very much based on sense of oneness of same human being. So individual do not want suffering, want happiness. So similarly, the others also have same desire, same right. On that basis, develop sense of concern of their well-being. So I have many friends among scientists. Actually, last 30 years, I have sort of serious engagement, discuss with scientists in different fields. So many genuine scientists, their mind very open, very neutral, unbiased. So I think as a true scientist, I think that mental attitude is very necessary. With that kind of mental attitude, further research, further
Studies.
further study or knowledge, deeper way. If you certain level contented, then say, oh, that's our way of tradition. Then no further progress. So investigation, in order to carry investigation, your mind must be open. And also it is necessary skepticism. That brings questions. Question brings effort to find answer. So if we contented, on our individual case, someone feel, I know everything, then no further progress. So therefore, I'm now 81-year-old person, but I always consider I'm student of those ancient Indian
Masters.
Indian masters, Indian philosophers, like that.
Thank you very much. I think we now have the audience here, so I would like you to go ahead with your address. Go ahead.
Okay. Firstly, I want to ask you, with this medal, this hat, do you see quite smart? or or strange. Whenever I talk, I give a talk, I always stress we are same human being. Audience, speaker, basically same. Emotionally, mentally, physically. And more important, everyone want happy life. Do not want problem. So everyone have the right to achieve that or desire or goal. So further,
If we go further along,
it will go further. Entire 7 billion human beings, mentally, emotionally, physically, same. And the desire all have same, and all have same right. Now, even animals also have that kind of desire. But emotionally, because of biological differences, emotion level, there are some differences. And mental, particularly intelligence, much differences. But desire for peace, happy life, even animal, small tiny insects also have same desire and right to exist, where? To survive, like that. So, now important is, because you see, if you consider this speaker is something special, then my experience, no use for you,
no relevance.
Ah.
No relevance.
no relevance. If you consider me same, then some of my experience can be useful to the audience. And then also, you see, consider we are same. For my part, I never consider I'm something special, I'm 14th Dalai Lama. I never consider that. I just simple Buddhist monk, another human being out of one of the 7 billion human beings. So then I feel very easy to communicate with others. If I stress I'm something special, then when we met people, you see, there are some people, you see, they consider importance of their own position or something. Then formality is automatically come. Then formality is actually one barrier of close connection. Informal, completely. When we're born, no formality. At the time of our death, no formality. I think between there, when we enter hospital, medical treatment, no formality. So, more serious sort of experience in our life, no formality. When we quite okay, then we consider formality as something important. In my mind, it is quite silly. 소수 가서 진짜 여러분 배를 줘래. 덤다하게 소수 찍어야지. 어디 소리지? 소수 찍고 쉽지 다 잡고 싶었어. 타모를 소수 찍는 소리도.
So there is a Tibetan saying that that kind of self-imprisonment is like a spider spinning its own web and getting caught in it.
So we too much emphasis some minor thing. And that creates additional problem. Then on top of that, a lot of problem which we, humanity now facing. So much killing and starvation. Same human being on the same planet. Very sad, very, very sad. When we look television, some Middle East or Africa, children, due to malnourished,
Malnourished.
oh, their face. So sad. And meantime, violence, bombing. What benefit? All this comes. Me, we, and self-centered attitude. And don't care about others' well-being, others' life. So now, in order to tackle this problem, not through prayer. I think I'm Buddhist. In my daily practice, prayer also included. But for individual, the prayer is relevant and useful. But for society or world, prayer, I think not much meaning. One occasion in Hiroshima, some Nobel laureates peace sort of meeting. So some Nobel laureates and some organization who also have the Nobel laureate, right? Nobel laureate. You see, they mention peace through prayer. Then my turn. I'm quite skeptical. Peace through prayer. I think 1,000 years we pray, but not positive result. During war, I think both sides pray to God. Oh, yeah. And nowadays, we see Sunni, Shia, some sort of conflict. I think both pray to Allah. And sometimes I jokingly, of course, with my respect, jokingly, you see, telling, both sides pray to one God. Then God, I think, find difficult. His bless should go this side or that side. So then logically, if we have the opportunity seeing Buddha or Jesus Christ or Muhammad ask, please bring peace on this planet. I think these sort of, what's the founder, teachers, I think logically will say, who creates violence? Who destroys peace? Not God, but you. So you have the responsibility to solve this problem, since you created. So that's quite logical. So at that time, in Hiroshima, I mentioned peace come only through action, not through prayer, not through blessing. So then there are many Japanese, some I think local officials also there. They usually remain a little bit sort of reserved. But then when I expressed that way, they also
applauded.
So that's true. So now this such terrible sort of situation which we are facing. if we not make effort with full enthusiasm, determination, this present situation, unhealthy situation, go continuously, then this 21st century will be same century, 20th century, lot of bloodshed, suffering. So, I think our generation witnessed what really happened in 20th century. According to some historian, they say more than 200 millions of people killed through violence. So if such immense sort of violence create new shape, better shape of this planet, and then we may justify, but that is not the case. So this beginning of 21st century, some pockets, some sort of violence, this, I believe, symptom of past mistake. And I think today's reality much changed, but concerned people who deal this sort of problem still carrying old thinking. Whenever you find some sort of disagreement or differences, you see they relying use force. That's old thinking. The 20th century's sort of thinking that outdated. So now, you see, firstly, population much increased, and world economy or livelihood very much interdependent. A global economy, you see, no national boundary. So that's the new reality. Now, in order to face this new reality, old thinking not fit. Now we must create new way of thinking, more sense of global responsibility. I really see impressed. Recently, BBC reported many European young people, they expressed they are the global citizens. So that's, I think, hopeful sign. And I personally also, you see, come across in Europe, as previously, different country, even you see killing each other. Eventually, European Union created. Now, for example, one of my great friend, respected friend, as a matter of fact, almost my tutor about quantum physics, von Weizsäcker, a German scientist. You see, he, in I think the 1990s, and he also quite old man, he told me once, when he was young German, in German eye, French is their enemy. And similarly, in the eyes of French, German is their enemy. But that kind of situation completely changed. Actually, the generation or the leader who implement the concept of European Union or start by de Gaulle, or French President de Gaulle, and the German Chancellor Adenauer. So when they are young, negative attitude. But then time changed, reality changed. Then these two persons, I think, are leading leaders to set up a European Union. So these, I think, really, through difficult experience, more mature, more realistic. So these ideas, these thinking, come. So therefore, I think time passes, you see people talking more and more global issue. So when I I think my own sort of experience, when I reached India, 1959, April, then main concern is those several thousand Tibetans who follow with us, the immediate sort of their livelihood.
livelihood.
Then gradually, immense help or sympathy from Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, Indian Prime Minister. You see, eventually we because of the settlement,
Settled.
project of settlement, and also education to the children. So at that time, our main concern is how to create self-supporting community, meantime preserve our own identity, and then education, modern education, plus our own language or these things. And then we also created such a monastic institution to carry continuously knowledge about the Nalanda masters sort of thinking like that. Now, so these are work for preservation of our tradition. Then 1973, I had opportunity to visit some European countries. Then, and also you see, while we are remaining in India, more sort of opportunity meeting with people from the West. And then gradually, we noticed the society where material sort of material facility highly developed. But people who in that kind of society, that kind of lifestyle, not necessarily very happy one. Some my friend, I think a billionaire, very rich, but as a human being, very unhappy, I notice. So therefore, material, external development alone, no guarantee or create happy human being, happy society. So then, at that time, I also, you see, start talking sense of global responsibility. You see, actually, the sense of oneness of 7 billion human beings. On that base, develop sense of serious concern other people's well-being as your own well-being, like that. So therefore, then, you see, more wider contact from our own experience, how to develop inner peace. Then, of course, out of 7 billion human beings, over 1 billion non-believer. So the method to cultivate or to
promote Lam.
to promote sense of concern of others' well-being on the religious base will not cover entire 7 billion human beings. So we need, without relying on religious belief, simply use our common sense, common experience, and particularly scientific finding. As I mentioned earlier, last 30 years, I have series of discussion with scientists. So, some occasion, the scientists, you see, through their own sort of investigation, what is the basic human nature? Then they concluded, use some different reasons. Then they say, basic human nature is more compassionate. So that really gives me real hope. If our basic nature is anger, then no hope. If basic nature of human being is more compassionate as a social animal, because the affection is the base foundation of our survival. So therefore, more of a compassionate mind here, physical, more healthier, more friend or friendship comes, then happy family, happy community. So therefore, you see, there is real hope. Now time comes, we have to make effort, the happier world and global level. That's the sense of universal responsibility, the sense of global responsibility. Now that key factor is sense of concern of others' well-being. So sense of concern of others' well-being. Also, you say, I think the best way to get benefit to oneself. Firstly, as soon as that kind of mental attitude comes, you see, you develop more self-confidence and enthusiasm, optimism. That brings more inner strength, inner peace. That gradually affect our health also, like that. So, we already now committed how to educate to children from kindergarten up to university level about this moral ethics, not relying on religious approach. So I think within next few months, we may finalize draft curriculum about the moral ethics, strictly not based on religion, like that. So we here, according to my own experience now, you see, we are same, but differences, you see, I'm now quite old, one elder way. Elder person. And also my life, you see, almost I think at the age 16, I lost my freedom. Age 24, I lost my own country. Then over now 57 years, there's a lot of difficulties, a lot of sort of heartbreaking news from Tibet. A lot of difficulties. And then also, you see, when, as I mentioned earlier, when hearing or seeing, a lot of problem, essentially human, our own creation. But these, you see, not causing depression or kasurta, mujiba.
Sadness and depression.
Or like that. So therefore, I want to share, according to my own experience, no matter how difficult it is, we have the ability to keep inner strength.